Ladies and gentlemen, this is the state of the scene.
Yo, what the fuck is up, Warped Tour? The state of the scene at SOTS Podcast on all social media. Sam here with Marcos.
I'm fucking amped. I'm ready to record.
Let's fucking do this shit, bro. As always, every link you need in the description of this episode, including our socials, playlist, merch, and Discord. Subscribe to us on YouTube at SOTS Podcast YT and leave a thumbs up if you're watching the video version of the podcast. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please leave 5 stars. And if you want to support the show, consider becoming a patron for exclusive content and benefits, including new shows and producer credits on all of our video content. Marcus, before we get into it, we have a slew of exciting announcements that we're going to be making throughout the course of this month. And we bring to you this week the very first one, which is SOTS Deluxe.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Sign up to our Patreon, patreon.com/SOTS podcast, to get bonus SOTS episodes. So what we're going to do is take some news stories that did not make the cut for the week, and instead we are going to record essentially a bonus 20 to 30 minute episode where we discuss some of those topics. And for just $3 a month at patreon.com/SOTS podcast, you can get access to all of those.
Yeah, and it's not strictly just smaller news stories that didn't make the cut outright. There's going to be some bigger stuff that just doesn't fit into the episode that we'd like to ultimately talk about.
We can't.
We now will
fit everything in one episode. So this week on SOTS Deluxe, we'll be talking about Sleep Token selling out O2 Academy in London, 20K fucking capacity venue.
20K, and they announced another date.
And they announced a second show. We're also going to talk about how Shiprocked got shipwrecked. New stuff from Capstan and new stuff from Belmont. So once again, patreon.com/SOTS podcast if you want more of the SOTS podcast. On the regular show this week, Marcos, in the news, we're going to talk about these fucking Grammy'S, W and L's. We're going to talk about Bad Omens dominating the charts.
Oh.
And we're going to talk about some new music from the Ghost Inside, like Moths to Flames, and more. Plus,
yes,
we're reviewing some albums from Nothing Nowhere, Galleons, Cult, and Normandie.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, let's do some data discourse. How early is too early to queue for a concert? This week, someone shared that the queue for the 1975 performance at the O2 in London 3 days prior to the show on February 12th had already started. As of today, the 10th, that same individual posted an update that the queue had reached 59 people. Tents have been set up. People are camping. Show is still 2 days away.
That's it?
What do you mean that's it? Like that amount of people is it?
Well, I feel like if you're going to start queuing 3 days in advance, 60 feels low. Like I'd be worried that 600 people would be there.
I think 600 people might be there if they didn't have jobs.
So to answer your question, how early is too early to queue for a concert? Yeah. I'm going to hit you with a flat 5 hours.
5 hours is,
I think,
too early, or is the cutoff?
That's the cutoff. Like, okay. I think that is when the earliest a queue should start for a show.
I remember when we used to drive to Warped Tour to get there like...
Doors at 5, get there for noon.
2 hours early? To get there like 2 hours early? The whole time we were like driving, I'd be like, girl, we are so crazy. We are out of control.
Who let us do this?
We can't be stopped. And to see people like 3 fucking days in advance be in line, I've been barrier. It's not 3 days of camping good. It just isn't. I'm sorry.
And then you factor in
45 minutes early at best good.
Then you factor in over the course of the night, hundreds of bodies toppling over you, pushing into your back, pushing your fucking rib cage into that barrier.
1975 get crowd surfers?
Yeah, I mean,
you think so?
I don't know. I feel like venues are real fucking harsh on the crowd surfers nowadays.
You think so, really? I feel like every show we've been to, we're still getting a lot of, come up here and give me a high five or some dumb bullshit.
Dying breed, maybe.
I really like the idea that somebody queues like 3 days in advance just so they can get a shot, like a spot in the back that they really like. You know what I mean? They just walk in and they're like, yeah, here's good. Is this a merch play too? I know a lot of bands are starting to do this bullshit where they're like, We only have 100 of these posters. We
This
could have
is the
printed
part-
7,000 of. Sorry, guys. Get here super early for no reason.
I guess most bands don't do this, but I thought if you bought like fucking
You're talking VIP?
Yeah, VIP, that you get early admission, and then that's when you get to go choose your spot.
What's VIP look like for the night when you're a band like the 1975? Is that like 1,000 people versus like the bands that we follow is like 100 to 200 max?
No, I bet the people that we follow is like 50 max. And then maybe not. Nowadays, like if Sleep Token ever did it, it'd be 3,000. But in general, I feel like 50 to 100 in this scene would regularly be it. And then now it's probably like for someone like 1975, I would guess like 500 max. You have to remember, like, you only have so much fucking time in a day to meet and talk and take a photo with people before you have to go and prepare for your show and all that.
What do you bring with you if you're camping out for a show?
A knife.
All right, calm down. About to fight off other people who try to cut in line?
I don't know. Deodorant, I would hope everyone else is. A jug of water, maybe 2. I don't know.
I feel like you got to have some sort of system, obviously, right? It's like one person's able to leave while the other person stays in line. Clearly, you just can't be trapped there for 3 whole
I feel
days.
like you have to be. If that's
there's got to be
if that's
system.
what you want to do, I feel like I see people like it may have even been this person who's part of like this 1975 camp. Like you're leaving and going to your hotel for like brief breaks. Fuck that. No, you should have to stay.
That does feel like cheating the system. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. Like once you go to the hotel, it should reset the whole scenario for you. There seems to be some sort of like, I really like the idea of line justice, where it's like they form their own sort of like
It's a blood bond.
democratic government
Yeah.
over the course of like 3 days, right? Like they know, like if you've caught, they know who's been there the whole time. There's like a team leader, you know what I mean? Like it's crazy how quickly like community can form in such short time.
Well, it's strange.
Clearly they all have something in common. They're
because
insane.
you'll see like threads pop up over the course of the year, and it's like someone telling you like rules for the queue. It's like, you don't work for the venue. Who are you?
It is. That's what I mean. It's like like they establish like their own fucking police force.
Is this The Walking Dead? Like, why?
It's crazy shit. Yeah.
Like
suddenly
suddenly
showing up with a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire.
Right.
Who's questioning me taking the front spot?
You're the
Go
mayor
ahead.
of this camp. What are you talking
I
about?
killed one person in line to establish dominance.
Oh, but you could though. You could show up with like 10 people and be like, "I'm the leader.
Right.
This is fucking Betsy the Bat."
I'm getting away with it because venue security and showing up for 2 more days. You know what I mean?
Exactly. This also feels crazy because I would guess most of the time there would be other shows happening around these dates. So like, when do the other queues start? Where are they allowed to sit or camp?
Right. It's like the 1975 crew is sitting there while like everybody else shows up for Foo Fighters date there or whatever.
Right. And if you're like Foo Fighters, say you're one of their crazier fans, you will show up like, 8 hours in advance. You're standing there. I would just watch that camp the entire time with disgust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Like,
what are you people doing?
get a job or something, you know? Yeah.
I don't
A lot
know.
of
It's
that
like,
energy.
dog, Jesus. I don't like, music is my favorite thing in the world.
Sure.
I don't like it enough to ever inconvenience myself camping in front of a venue for 3 days straight. And I would die for this scene.
I was trying to think of a real clever thing. Like, my favorite thing in the world is peace and happiness. You know
No,
what I mean?
it's not. I know it isn't.
Patreon questions this week, Marks. If you want to write in the Patreon, patreon.com/SOTS
That's it?
podcast. Yeah,
that's it for Data Discourse?
That's it, bro. That's all I have to say
Yikes.
about it. I just will never for all the adoration in this world I have for bands and music and all this stuff, I could not imagine even showing up in time for Doors. Casey asked this week, not exactly a question, but Marcos, that bleh last week was pathetic. Give me your best bleh right now, bro. You've been called out.
What are you doing? Critiquing my...
You've been put on the spot.
I don't even know.
Not bad. Not bad. I feel like you can never really bleh.
Like, I gotta...
You always bleh like you're in a library. I need you to bleh like you're on stage. Ugh, I hated that.
Yeah?
That was terrible. No, I need you to seriously give a bleh. Like you're
Really? That felt okay.
No, I mean, I want you to do it like close your eyes and dance
gonna
like no
fry
one's
my
watching
vocal
is what I
cords.
need right now. Not bad. Brandon asks, every time I listen to Plant a Seed, it transports me back to Warped Tour. What album does that for you guys, Marcos? Indeed. I got a pair of shorts I bought at like Warped Tour 2014 when the Word Alive were releasing Real that are somehow still in like one piece and wearable condition. Not like out, but like, you know, to walk around the house. And that always reminds me of Warped Tour.
I think my answer is always going to be Every Time I Die.
Every Time I Die. What a strange one.
It's just because that was always the of all the bands you could depend on being there every other year, it was always Every Time I Die. It was always a decent stage.
Bless the Fall is a very dependable Warped Tour band as well. Yeah.
And then Every Time I Die also has like some the historical significance baked in of trying like to outlast Pennywise on the last date with like the longest riff.
Still the coolest thing. I really needed, we needed the crowd to step into and like drag Pennywise off that stage. Like I can't believe we
security,
let them close out Warped Tour.
Right.
Album though? No album?
I guess I missed
right. Like we kind of like dodged the actual question here. It's tricky.
It's gonna be a weird one. It's gonna be like whatever where they're holding out the flowers that for all those sleeping album.
What the fuck?
It's like a band that was like they born and died in the Warped era.
Yeah, they lived and died
right
at Warped Tour. I really like that theory, like After Midnight or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they never made it out of Warped Tour.
Also, it's like Challenger by Memphis Mayfire is actually the answer.
Yeah, that's 100%
right.
it. Yeah.
That was the band you could depend on being.
Or like Ad Heart by Miss May I, some shit like that.
Something like that.
Melvin asks, with the new Galleons release, do you think Johnny Craigcore is dying, or is there a new predominant vocal style taking over? Lot to take. The framing of this question is interesting because it's like, with the release of a brand new album that you guys are covering, do you think this is dead? It's like, well, I mean, by virtue of the fact that we're talking about it, I guess no.
I mean, not to really get into the review before we get into it, I'd say we're closer to it being reborn than we are it dying.
Yeah, that's fair. Johnny Craigcore is such a funny way of just saying Swancore.
It is. It's
like we really just dodged it for no reason.
It's because Swancore, I feel like, is more people identify it more with the instrumentals, but I think it really is the whole package. And the Johnny Craig style vocals are part of that.
It's just like the idea that like somebody wants to be like, is metalcore washed? And they're like, is Architect's Core washed? Like, where are we going here, really?
Right. I mean, you're not off, but you're not exactly.
So
predominant vocal style taking over. I don't know.
If it's not Johnny Craig, I mean, Johnny Craig is so fucking specific is the problem. And like, maybe Galleons is really the only band, outside of, half a dozen other fucking Swancore bands that are really doing Johnny Craig. I don't really see it leaving that like subculture to begin with. So like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, no, there's a million other different styles. This is just one of them.
Well, I mean, it doesn't help that like Issues is officially done. Tyler Carter, of course, no longer in the scene. Like there's stuff like that where like that style of vocals you can't really get in a lot of places. So I understand that, but like Galleons is delivering that, and it might inspire another crop of bands. We'll see.
Yeah, I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's dead. Maybe it's in like maybe we're in like a slow couple years for it or something. You know what I mean?
Prominent vocal style. I mean, I think we're gonna start seeing it this year, like that. The fucking Neighborhood Bad Omens style alt delivery it's coming.
Sure.
It's coming.
I think that,
and I'm happy about that.
In terms of presentation, we've definitely seen a lot of people try to mimic the apatheticness of like Spiritbox, like in like music videos and stuff like
Plotting
that.
you a little bit.
Yeah. Eric asks, which scene artist could play the Super Bowl halftime show?
Sleep Token. It's Slipknot.
It's not Sleep Token. I just don't think the appeal is broad enough. Sleep Token's too strange for this world.
I know. I think really your only two answers are there's probably three. I think Once Upon a Time, Panic at the Disco was on that trajectory.
It blows my mind that they haven't, because like the showmanship of like Panic at the Disco is so primed for that type of thing. Like I remember when Brendan Urie did like a New Year's Eve performance, and I was like, this is really fucking good. Like this is just a really entertaining artist, right? And now that they have the songs to back up mass appeal, which is to say that, for better or worse, everyone on this fucking planet knows High Hopes. And then I think just under that, enough fucking people know I write sins, not tragedies, even if it's in an ironic way at this point.
Yeah.
Panic should have gotten it. Panic should have fucking gotten it.
I still think they always lean more towards like legacy. I think
Is Panic not legacy?
No. I think what I more mean is like if Panic had dropped like another High Hopes type style song or album, whatever, like they just need like a little more. I don't know if their current catalog does it. Like at some point you start playing like, 9 in the afternoon and like a lot of people are going to know it.
Do you though? Like Panic could play like High Hopes and they're playing new stuff. We're talking like Hey Look Mine made it, like that kind of shit. You know what I mean? They're playing
Death of a
Saturday
Bachelor.
Night. They could have done perfectly fine.
Sure.
And then you slide in I Write Sins and like you're good to go.
I mean, I think the only other couple I see would ever justify something like Super Bowl is the rest of the emo trinity, and it's the 4 or 5 other bands that you could consider part of that,
right? Like
which is My Chem, Paramore, Fall Out Boy, 21 Pilots, and there might be like an outside shot at someone else. But
I feel like what we've seen a lot of lately is like, and what we're seeing this year with like Usher and Alicia Keys and stuff, is that we're starting to do this like bundle thing of like nostalgia. And I think, if you could convince them, you probably could have gotten like Fall Out Boy, Paramore, My Chem to do, and like Panic to do like some big group bullshit.
This is like before, like when we were young, like if When We Were Young Fest was still a couple of years away. And like that's your promise is like emo trinity all in one night, you might be able to sell a Super Bowl on that.
I think people would have gotten excited for it. God knows if everybody came out and played their like 1 or 2 biggest hits, it would have gone crazy. Even if they just played like a minute and a half of each of them.
You're not wrong though, as far as like collaborative stuff nowadays. Like even Eminem brought like 9 people on stage with him.
Yeah, it was like Missy Elliott, 50 Cent, like all this other
Snoop
fucking
Dogg,
shit. Yeah.
Trey, I think. Everyone is what it felt like. Who do you think does next year?
I mean, Taylor Swift has been like the.
Did she like finally do it?
Yeah, exactly. Does she give a shit enough about football at this point because of Travis Kelce that she might be willing to, whatever, undercut?
She does it for
cost.
the love of the game now,
right? Ice Spice,
maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like an actual serious answer. Taylor Swift does feel like why not?
I mean, yeah, like they're massive, right? Like that would be. I think there's a lot of people sort of in like the country space that might be able to, like, you could probably do another package deal there.
Yeah.
Cam Brown, who's the guy who like Luke Combs, who was like really hot off of that fucking Grammy's performance.
Sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Caillou asks, what's your favorite piece of band memorabilia that you own? We get this question like every 6 months, and somehow I always hit a fucking wall trying to like think of what it is for me.
No, I think I've got a couple of answers off the top.
Off the dome?
Off the top.
Yeah, but you've got like 7 new pieces of like band fucking memorabilia every month. You've freshened your fucking reserve. For
I don't know about that.
Like I'm still clutching like the one album I bought last year. You know what I mean?
I don't know. There's a handful of stuff like and forgive me if we've answered this question. It's the same one as before, but there's this little. It's like this 6x6 wooden piece from Too Close to Touch from like the 2018 singles era where they dropped, Leave You Lonely, Burn, another track on there. I forgot which one. But it's like the 3 track titles form like a sentence, and then there's like this image of like someone surrounded by smoke or whatever, and the Too Close to Touch logo and all that's on there. And I've always loved that. I just keep it sort of just in my room somewhere. It's like always been on display. It's like one of the few things I've just always kept on display ever since I bought it. That's definitely up there. I would say there's actually a bunch of wall flags I keep around that I still really like. Like I haven't been my cell phone from Too Close to Touch.
Wait until you get like that man cave to really like express your band love.
I had the self-inflicted Chelsea Grin one up in my room for like ever, which is just the girl with like the half fucking crazy face.
All-time classic.
And it's just like, I just associate that with my room for a long time. So it's just a piece that I've seen frequently, and I really like that one, even though it's not on display anymore. You bought me a vinyl for Christmas one year of a split from like 2008 or 2007 from the Black on Black tour with Escape the Fate and Bless the Fall. And it's like this Brady Bunch style like thing. And that's one of like my grails in general. I love that. Those are probably one of the top. Those are some of the top ones. I like my CD collection in general.
Your room's like a fucking museum. It's crazy going in there.
Shut up.
It's crazy. The fucking skateboard decks, the vinyls. It's wild.
I don't have any of that.
I'm going to go with a real basic ass answer. I am quite fond of these 3 Gerard Way Funkos behind me. Like these little fucking 3 eras of fucking My Chemical Romance. Very, very pleased.
I thought you were going to go with the Spiritbox coffee grains we have.
I do like those. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of things
Sign of the Grinds
that I'm quite fond of back here. I feel like my Ice Nine Kills merch in particular, I really adore, like the box set you got me and the little signed figurine and stuff like that. But like top of my head, I really love these stupid little fucking Gerard Way Funkos.
There's 2 posters we own as well, both of us, and it's the Day to Remember Parks and Devastation one. And the used like 25-year anniversary, or might have been 15.
I think it was 15 at the time.
15-year anniversary. I think you have that one up in the room.
It was like 10 years ago.
God. Ugh.
Yeah.
Those are just like mainstays in both of our places, and they're nice. So
maybe someday we can do like a museum episode where we just take like a whole fucking bin of merch and just kind of go through like years and years of like band merch. Like I still have like all of my fucking t-shirts that I've bought like since I was like 13.
Still have like
just
4
like
Hot
away.
Topic Attack ones. Yes, sir.
And finally, Marcos, Kyle asks, what band do you think is the Chili's of the scene? Dependable, easy to access, great, but in a non-threatening way, like that. Chili's of the scene.
So respectfully, I prevail.
I was going to go with State Champs.
I don't hate that.
They both have like that insanely easily accessible end of whatever genre spectrum they are.
Right. And you listen to them and you're like, no, that was good. That was a good meal.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
This was fun.
Right.
Maybe not like the most nutrient dense thing I'm going to like eat for a meal, but like,
and it's not like
I'm gonna come back to it because I like it.
It's not like a once in a lifetime experience, but it was good. It's okay. I've got like my mains. Like I'll go to them for a couple of different meals, you know?
It's also like, I don't need anything complicated right now. I just need like something easy, and I Prevail and Stay Champs are easy.
Yeah.
Marks, let's review some albums this week.
The Breakdown.
Starting with Dark Magic by Nothing Nowhere.
I just want you on me. My feet stuck in the concrete. I can never say what I want to. Keep it on and let it haunt you. Late night, me and you on a motorbike, feel the wind brush on my skin in the moonlight. I never want to feel like a dead end. I just want to feel like a fit in. I can't pretend that I'm okay. I need something to save me.
This is the Vermont musician's 6th studio album, released independently for the first time since like 2015 or 2016.
Okay, since gotcha.
Since independently on the 8th of February. Dark Magic consists of just a small amount of songs, like 18 tracks. and is the much anticipated follow-up to last year's phenomenal Void Eternal LP. Spoiler alert, we gave that one our number 2 record of the year. We were very, very happy with it.
All right, let's unpack.
A lot's changed.
Let's
Nothing
unpack.
Nowhere off of Fueled by Ramen.
What the fuck happened there?
I don't know. I don't get it, man.
Because like not only are we sort of like pushing this as like being an independent release, but I feel like we're aggressively pushing the fact that we're no longer on Fueled by Ramen. It's very, very clear to me that that relationship did not play out. Also with maybe a little bit of like the lyrical sentiment within here that it's just like that relationship went badly, and it sucks because like Nothing Nowhere really is an artist that Fueled by Ramen shouldn't have fumbled. Like there is so much potential there for them to have really fueled Nothing Nowhere's growth. And it makes me question a lot. Like suddenly I'm thinking to myself, like, were a lot of the Void Eternal decisions, were they Fueled by Ramen's choice? Did Fueled by Ramen, or were they Nothing Nowhere? Fueled by Ramen didn't back it,
right? Didn't believe, you know,
right? Like, what kind of numbers did Fueled by Ramen expect that they didn't get? Like, what kind of backing did Nothing Nowhere expect that Fueled by Ramen did not give him? Like, I feel like I'm so curious about how that relationship played out.
I want both sides of the story, you know? I definitely do. Like, there's lyrical content on here talking about, you know, I can tour with whoever the fuck I want to, whatever bands I want to.
I just feel like I could only ever get a real, authentic, genuine answer from Nothing Nowhere, and I would only ever get corporate speak from
of course. You know what I mean? I want both sides in the sense of, like,
you want to be like a fly on the wall, right? You want to know the inner workings of both halves of this relationship. But obviously, it's tough to just go ask somebody. You know what I mean?
I mean, outside looking in, there always seems like perfect marriages as far as labels and bands go. And Fueled by Ramen and Nothing Nowhere definitely seemed like one of them when that was first announced.
Yeah.
And then we get an outstanding album last year.
It was a really good album, right?
So, like, who was pissed about it? Who didn't genuinely love that album? I don't know. But
and then what does it mean for Nothing Nowhere to then come back, do this independent release, and go back to the style of music that he became popular with?
Somewhat. A partial return to roots.
Like 99%.
A majority return to roots.
This is the Nothing Nowhere that we were familiar with up until, like, that sort of pop punk single that we got like right before Void Eternal.
I mean, I think this definitely leans heavier on the emo rap side of things at the beginning of the record for like the first 9 songs. And then I think it does, like, there's like not deathcore, but like there's some straight up metalcore breakdowns towards the end of certain songs.
It does get grungier, but I would say we are leading our listeners astray if we did not categorically call this like emo hip hop.
No, not wrong. I mean, so for you though, like, excited for that return, like when you get Dark Magic announced and you're sort of like feeling the vibe out for this, the energy from some of the announcement here, like you kind of realize it's going to be emo rap again, and you're like, I'm kind of down for that, right? I sort of like not being able to guess where Nothing Nowhere is going to go next.
Agreed. But you and I have had this conversation a lot lately in that we feel like there has been a weird black hole left with nobody picking up the pieces of what felt like a really strong, burgeoning subculture that was coming up in the scene. And then to have so many artists pivot away, whether it was to like the pop punk side or like the heavier side. So it's nice to have like what I would consider one of the best walk it back and do it again, right?
Yeah, try it out again.
Like for me, this is a if like anyone could come back to this style, Nothing Nowhere's best case scenario.
Bread and butter, as far as I'm concerned, for Nothing Nowhere. I think that the way that Dark Magic is presented is one of my favorite things about this record.
It's the best part of it.
So obviously you've got like the knight in their armor as the cover art, and then you
Yeah.
got like the grungier looking Dark Magic font in the background, and then their entire face is blacked out. You know, obviously Nothing Nowhere covering the face is like the whole thing, but it's got this very dark energy. And then for the first half of this record, for the most part, you've got a ton of little interludes that are laced within the songs.
That's the entirety of the album.
It's not because it's a pet peeve of mine that it's not really happening for like the last
shows
six
up
songs.
in later parts of the album. I'm almost
rare.
sure.
Super
Okay,
rare.
not with the intensity,
Right.
but it does remain enough that it keeps all of the album threaded.
It should have happened in like the closer, and it doesn't, and it bothers me. But so what we're talking about is there's a bunch of like there's this famous TikTok sound that's essentially it's Shadow Wizard Money Gang, and it's so like a fake producer
I
tag.
feel so old right now.
But like I feel like Nothing Nowhere saw that and they're like, oh, I'm gonna make an album around this.
Okay.
And it's fucking brilliant.
Okay.
So you have a bunch of like little producer tags that Nothing Nowhere's added, where it's like, this beat courtesy of the Reaper gang, and it's not exactly that, but you know what I
To
mean.
be fair,
like,
I feel
shit
like we've
that.
seen this kind of thing before, right? Like I remember Oliver Francis doing something similar. With the very least, they're doing like sort of this spoken word tie together. That's like, hey, you're currently
of
listening to
course.
fucking Vibes Radio.
Yeah. But like this is cool because it's not like a radio show. It's like it laces in like news segments of a fake story happening of like it's all occult stuff, and it's like the world is being taken over by demons or whatever, and it's like all that we know about our about Nothing Nowhere is that they lead like the Reaper gang cult.
Right, they're a
Backwoods gang.
witchcraft shit.
Right.
Another artist who did something slightly similar, just not to cut you off, but real quick, Garden, with that EP that I really adored a couple years back, where they would do like this news report about like the murderer that like ended up getting like stopped.
Yep.
So for me, this is almost like not quintessential, but like an aspect of the genre that I really love. Like I think it suits this style very well.
Well,
right?
but I like how heavily Nothing Nowhere leans
Agreed.
into, like, it's almost the theme of this. It's like following this story, and like again, not far off from Garden, like you were saying, but like another version of that I just really, really enjoy.
We haven't seen Nothing Nowhere do it before, not that I can remember.
Yes.
I also like the sort of cyclical nature of the concept that's being presented, which is to say that like it's this relationship between Nothing Nowhere, which is like he'll come and corrupt, but then it's the idea that like the corrupted are also like saving them from themselves. Like it's this like really beautiful analogy sort of like mixed in there somehow that I'm butchering like from head to toe, but it's this idea that
I'm trying to
like,
follow.
the people need Nothing Nowhere and Nothing Nowhere needs the people, and that's essentially like the cult. So it's like while it's presented as like a dark and mysterious and evil thing, it's really like actually like a wholesome and really positive thing.
Yes. No, I don't think you're wrong about that. I really enjoy
The framing device makes this. It makes this.
Yes.
It makes it.
It is the main draw for me. It's what ultimately takes this from a good record to a great one for me.
Mm-hmm. And I think another thing that works incredibly well for this is just the pace. Every time this album needs to pick it up or slow it down a little bit, it knows exactly when to do it, right? Nothing feels overplayed, and that is an incredible compliment to pay an album that is 18 tracks long.
Yeah, and granted, it's not a long record for being
it is
18
on
tracks.
paper though, right?
Not wrong. I'm just saying, but it only ends up being like a 40-minute record,
Right,
which is
right,
standard in this scene for sure. Void Eternal, I think, was longer, and it was 6 songs shorter. So, yeah,
25 features longer though.
Yeah, it was
completely eliminated from this. Right, like the features gone.
Yeah.
After getting an album that was almost entirely based on features, like that's an aspect that did not make the cut here.
Well, and I don't really mind that. Like I didn't listen to this record and think like, oh man, this really would have gotten pushed over the edge with a feature from like fucking whoever knows.
Though I did see some people posting like, oh hey, I'm like production wise or like beat wise featured in this song, which I guess is something that is sort of like lost on me
that makes a ton of
because
sense.
I don't have like a sense for like producers and stuff like that.
Sure.
In that nature. Not in the same way that I easily pull a vocal feature.
Yeah, no, I think like Nothing Nowhere is still a very collaborative person, And it would make sense that as a producer, they would work with plenty of other producers to kind of perfect whatever vision, you know, this record is. But yeah, as far as like vocal features, I'm kind of happy there's none on here. It was nice just to get like an old fashioned sort of Nothing Nowhere album again.
I mean, it's because
with a new twist.
It's because it's delivered with such conviction that I think you're right. I'm also fine with it because this feels so. Nothing Nowhere is really like planting their feet down with like a level of confidence that it's very convincing from someone who didn't need convincing how like important of an artist they are and how like skilled of a talent. Like,
Yeah.
again, for them to go from like, hey, fucking number 2 album of last year for us, and then completely change up the style, and then once again just like wow us. It's like there are next to no other artists who are doing it like Nothing Nowhere. I'm sorry, not in this space at the very least.
No, I agree. I end up super happy with this record, honestly. At the end of the day, I don't like it as much as Void Eternal. I won't give you that.
Yeah, I think I don't go as far as that, or even the album prior, which I also adore, but the name consistently escapes me.
Burning Down the House is not
it is not even fucking
Trauma Factory.
Close. Thank you. Burning Down the House.
It has fire on
as
the
a
cover.
First shot at Trauma Factory.
We were just talking about the Used.
So yeah, I think I'd go like. I'm somewhere between like a 7.5 and an 8 out of 10. I think I need a little more time with it to see what its staying power feels like.
I think,
but conceptually, I just love it.
Yeah. Well, again, conceptually, I love most of it, but I feel like we sort of abandoned it towards the end. Granted, maybe I just wasn't listening closely enough by that point.
Maybe
I need to spend a little more time with it.
But again, you know, maybe this is and as I double check the track listing, I see a feature from Misagi. So like retract everything I said earlier.
Well, you still comparatively 1 to 40 on the last record.
Yeah. Well, we've cut back significantly at the very least.
I'm probably at a 7 here. I would have liked a little bit more consistency with that storytelling. Even though I don't disagree that it's still mostly all that, I would have liked them to really bring it home at the very end.
Okay. And then I'll settle on a 7.5 because now I feel a little more comfortable being over you.
Okay. We move on to Violent Delights by Galleons. This is the Transcontinental Outfit's 4th studio album, released the 8th of February via Famine Records. Violent Delights consists of 15 tracks and is the much anticipated follow-up to 2021's self-titled Galleons LP, which I feel like placed pretty highly for us the year it came out.
I remember being quite plussed with it. Like
I don't think it was quite top 10, but
yeah,
we had it right
I
outside
can't remember
there.
if it placed, but I do remember enjoying it quite a bit.
I think we had it right outside the top 10. And right off the bat, this record runs circles around that one.
Wow.
This might be my favorite release of the year. I think that so far. I really like that Neck Deep album. Enterprise Earth was good. But there's something about this.
You have the floor.
This Violent Delights album that really, really grabbed me. First things first, this is the best Swancore record I've heard in half a decade. I think that this shit is fucking insane. It has excellent pacing. The pacing is really the biggest draw for me. Just when you think this album's like gonna slow it down, or like just when you think it's gonna lose you, it grabs you even more. And I don't know, like every song on here is, especially the singles, this band did an excellent job choosing singles between, you know, that closer Crybaby, Dungeon Dweller, Yakisoba Dare, the one with Rio, Dead Man Wonderland. All of them like start in an iconic fashion. So like in 5 years, I'm going to know when each of these songs come on a playlist. Like everything about this album feels like it is bordering on iconic.
It's interesting you say that, because I feel like in a sea of similarly styled swancore bands, it is interesting that in some capacity, I do feel like Galleons has both completely mimicked the genre, but also
Extremely familiar.
managed to carve out like this little small unique aspect of them that does help you pull them from the rest of the other similarly stylized bands.
I don't know what exactly it is, but this band has breathed in, or has breathed there's fresh air in this scene now. Like we've breathed fresh air into this scene, this genre that wasn't there this time last week. And it's thanks to Galleons, even though it is an extremely familiar sound. Here's where the drinking game starts, comparing this to Early Dance Gavin Dance, but this is exactly what this is. And we've mentioned it with Galleons before, but it hasn't changed. So you have this timeless version of like Johnny Craig style vocals with John Mess style screaming, and it's always a perfect concoction.
You've undersold it. This is Johnny Craig reincarnated. Like, it is almost impossible to separate your mind from Johnny Craig when you hear the vocals on this album. And I think that is a gift, because I will say with the utmost confidence, Johnny Craig is top 5 greatest vocalists that has ever come from this scene. And I will not defend the individual,
right,
though I will sympathize with their ongoing drug problems. Unmatched vocalist up until Galleon showed up and literally just stole the soul right from under them.
So this is that without the baggage. Exactly.
Precisely.
And for that reason alone, it is impossible not to enjoy this to its fullest possible extent, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is, I don't know, this style of music I was raised on, and hearing Galleons replicate it so well, but still like bring something unique enough to the table where it feels like I am indeed listening to Galleons, and this is indeed like a new record that's released in 2024. Like, I know that these are new songs.
I want to push back a little bit. I'd want to just put back like a smidge. I will say that 9 out of 10 times we feel fresh and unique, but occasionally we feel, I would say, overly familiar.
Okay.
I don't think every singular song on this 15-track album is a breath of fresh air that we knock out of the park. I will say sometimes we have some interchangeable for any like era of the swancore subculture.
Sure. Well, and I think like you have 15 songs.
I just want to bring it down just like a notch.
15 full songs, and I think that you become vulnerable to that, and I think that does happen here. I don't disagree.
You're right. There for me there's like a 12-track version of this that is,
oh my god,
flawless.
Right. But a lot of the songs we haven't even mentioned, I hope you're not considering Vagabond when you talk about songs you can easily dismiss.
I was considering
that is like one of the songs of the year.
Vagabond.
No,
I'm kidding.
Vagabond has this fucking insane energy, and that's going back to when I was talking about bass, like this record fucking flies. Yakisoba Dare fucking, it flies. And then you find you're all the way at the end with Crybaby, and it's the best song on the record.
It is the best song.
And it features Idola, and you're just ready to start it right over again.
Michael Wells, yes.
Yeah.
I will say this. There is not a singular band in this subculture that is more never I never want to hear from this band say we're not swancore. Look at this track list.
Oh my god.
The Downtown Dinosaur Gang.
They know what they're doing.
Like, don't fuck with me here.
Even
the artwork feels like it weirdly
I love it though.
I
love it though. It's so vibrant. And that's just like that's the main thing about this record. Sonically, it's vibrant. Visually, vibrant. I adore everything about it. I don't know. Like, It might also help that the weather was really nice when this dropped, and it was like
The weather was so nice.
I had my windows down, bro. I had
Yeah.
this at fucking max volume.
Ideal listening experience.
Insane experience. I just had a wonderful time.
Let's
with
talk
this
about some
record.
bits and pieces a little bit. It's nice to see Ryo Kinoshita show up with a feature after he went on like an unprecedented run and then took like a little break.
2-year
Like,
hiatus.
yeah, there was a minute where it was like Ryo was featured on every album by every metalcore band.
Bro, that's why he was having those sleeping issues every fucking second. His
It's a
email
fair
going
point,
off.
respectfully.
Respectful. I'm joking.
But like this feels more novel for Ryu. Like this is not the type of album I would expect them to show up on. So like I was really excited to see their name here. And Dead Man
Exactly.
Wonderland really hits it out of the fucking park. Like it's a
Bro,
good
and
ass
that's what I
song.
talk about, like things being like iconic, like Dead Man Wonderland, like that fucking that key bit at the beginning, like do 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 do.
Sonically,
like,
this is
everything about this
very,
album,
very rich.
it's so confident.
Mm-hmm.
And like confident. We talk about confidence, man. Like there are some times where our vocalist just fucking glides across the track. Crybaby, like that second verse, like the words that we're putting together, like everything works about the delivery so
Some
often.
of the fucking lyrics in this are such a joy. I think it's in Violent Denights that it's like he says a line like "show that ass for profit." I'm like, damn, that's a fucking bar.
I'm pretty sure Vagabond mentions like smoking crack. There's so much weird shit happening on
It's
this
like
record at
weird, but it's
times.
like a reeled in type of weird. Like it's not the absurdity that we'd come to expect from like Dance Gavin Dance.
Sure,
it's
yeah.
much more like contained.
to the point where like when it does fly off the handle just a little bit, you notice it, as opposed to Dance Gavin Dance where it's all completely out of fucking off
Right,
the
when
handle.
everything's weird, nothing's
Right,
weird. Type
right,
thing.
right.
Yeah.
I think for me that this is probably a 9.5. I think that this, again, we really liked that Galleons album last year. This one wipes it off the fucking face of the planet. I think it runs circles around it.
You said we
fucking
really
love
liked
this
that
one.
Galleons album last year.
2021.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
That you were either talking about a different band
Nothing
or
Nowhere.
like had gotten the date wrong.
Yeah.
So I have a slightly more like tepid like
Slightly
response to
colder on
this.
it.
I think I hover closer to a soft 8 where I really do thoroughly enjoy this, but I think there is a slightly tighter album to be found here and wonder if there's an opportunity in the future to maybe freshen up Swancore even more as a genre. Because while this does feel like it reinvigorates that subculture, I will say that a lot of it is still extremely familiar. Like, there are moments where you do feel as if you're listening to a Dance Gavin Dance B-side. And
You're not wrong at all.
yeah, but I think it has to be like
Explicitly said.
right.
Sure, I'll let you have it. But again, there's like a deep yearning in I think you and I think myself for good ass Swancore, and I think that you don't have to look much further than this Galleons.
The
album
genre
for it.
needed the defibrillator that is this fucking album. Like,
I agree.
desperately. Like, Life Support and Galleon said, fuck no. And for that, I'm like eternally grateful for the same reasons you stated earlier. Like, raised on this fucking subgenre.
Yep.
Obviously not having its best years lately. Nice to have somebody like before the fuck, like, as the plane's coming down, grab the fucking steering wheel and like just like course correct us enough to keep us in the air.
Just extremely well done in my opinion. And I think Violent Delights, to show my cards a little bit for the rest of these reviews here, contributes pretty greatly to what I think is overall going to be one of the best release weeks that we see this year.
It's feeling good, Margos. Keep it going. Keep it going.
Dopamine by Normandie.
I should've seen it coming from miles. We're dancing on the edge of a knife. I need blood. I can't seem to live without hurting.
This is the Stockholm Trio's 4th studio album, released the 8th of February via Easy Life Records. Dopamine consists of 11 tracks and is the much anticipated follow-up to 2021's Dark and Beautiful Secrets LP, also a record that we really enjoyed in 2021. Also, feels like it's been much longer than that for Normandie. I was a little surprised when I saw that it had been that long.
I mean, 3 years is a long fucking time. I feel
Yeah.
like it checks out.
Well, I feel like Normandie was pretty dependably a 2-year cycle for a while.
I think everyone's dependable till a pandemic, right?
That
And then
dropped in 2021. We're now in 2024.
Yeah, but like it's recorded pre-pandemic.
Sure,
A bunch of shit
whatever.
happens. It finally gets released. We can't quite tour on it the way we'd hope to. Like, I feel like we keep doing this thing where we're like, damn, what happened to these bands? And it's always between the years 2020 and 2023.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's such a like oblivion, like an obvious answer, right?
This band got a bit of flack for their amount of singles released.
I thought you were going to talk about something else, which I would love to discuss really quick, but go ahead.
I don't even know what you're referring to.
I'll fill you in.
Oh, yes, the Bad Omens video.
Yeah. Okay, so like to get everyone up to speed real quick, like this band got accused of like copying Bad Omens like van video that just dropped, and this came out like 7 days later.
One of the songs on here, yeah.
Right, like as the last single before this
I
album
think
dropped.
Serotonin was the last
I
one.
never watched it, so I'm not positive what
Yeah.
track it even was. And it's like, and Normandie, like I think it was specifically the vocalist responded. He's like, yeah, shit, it was like day one.
Phil, yeah.
we got all the cast. Like day 2, we scouted locations. Like day 3, we filmed. 4, we edited. 5, we like loaded
Color
the video.
grading. Yeah.
It's like we're just insane like that, y'all.
Right.
It's so fucking
Just
funny.
some workhorses over there in
It's crazy the
Stockholm.
music video discourse that we've got lately between this and like Dream State dropping a song called like Dayseeker a little while back, which was so fucking funny.
That one seems super premeditated and the funniest of
In a way that I
ways.
respect, honestly. It's like that band that like is called like fucking like Bite Tooth or something. It just has like the same logo design as Beartooth. Hilarious to me.
I mentioned the single thing, but I when I sort of looked at their website, just gathering info about this release leading up to this review, I realized that this band had been dropping them the first of every month for like 6 or 7 months straight.
Very funny thing for us to never notice.
And then I started to super appreciate that delivery. And I'm like, you know what? A month between all of them, always on the first. I fuck with that. Part of me just wishes they, like, big criticism about this one. Dopamine should have came out on February 1st at all costs, or March 1st, you know, whatever.
Right, like we should have lined it up perfectly. I feel you. Like somebody dropped the ball there, right?
Or a little bit.
Like they marked one day too far on the calendar and didn't realize it. I just think like obviously the criticism of too many singles is like the most pointless waste of our time imaginable. And I say this as the machine that raged the hardest against this sort of album rollout.
4 years ago when we first started seeing it.
We've lost the battle. This is how albums are released now.
Yeah.
You, the listener, have a choice to engage or not, but this will continue until things change dramatically.
Till morale improves. So, but I did want to preface this with some single talk because on that discussion, at some point I start tuning them out. And I don't pay attention to when Hourglass comes out featuring Danny Winterbates. I don't pay attention to when Sorry comes out or when Ritual comes out.
I got there too. I was like, I'm already in. I've got a feel for this record. I don't necessarily need to jump into every single.
Yeah, exactly. So, but my experience listening to this one is I pre-gamed, right? 2 or 3 days before this album comes out, I'm like, hey, a quarter of this album or 3/4 of this album's already out. Let me go check it out.
It's so funny to remain strong for so long, only like in the very end to be like, who cares?
Right. So I look at like 6, 7 songs and I'm like, all right, well, let me go listen to that so that when it comes time to listen to the album, like I really only have to ingest 3 new songs during that listening experience.
Let me ask you something. This is a stature of the band type issue, right? Because obviously there's not a Bring Me the Horizon release in this world that everyone isn't going to fucking be like, let's do it, right? And to be fair, people also bitched so hard about that band releasing so many singles that they had to turn their EP into an album just so it wasn't 8 songs people already heard. But like that being said, I'm not it's appointment listening every time, right? And not every band is at that level or stature,
Exactly.
right? And I say that respectfully, right? Because it also sort of lets me experience bands in different ways, right?
Right.
I heard maybe 3 songs leading up to this.
Well, but even on that topic, like as much as I
get that other experience.
as much as I like this band's debut, as much as I like White Flag, as much as I like Dark and Beautiful Secrets, they're all just 12 singles half the time.
Yeah.
And respectfully, but like that is the Normandie promise, is you are going to hear 12 of the most insane choruses you've heard in your entire fucking life, and you're going to be happy about it. But like there's very little, connective tissue. This one's probably the most this band has tried.
Yeah,
especially
the metaphor here is blunt and rich enough, not super like outside of the obvious subject matter that bands tend to tackle fairly often, but like the presentation is very well done.
Yeah, like visually too, like aesthetically, like the album lead up, there was a ton of connective tissue. I still think when you listen to this album that like...
Can we talk about that a little bit before we get into anything else?
Yeah.
So essentially the subject matter here, as I interpreted it, is that their approach to love is that of like an addict, where they become upset, they become addicted to it, and then when they lose it, they suffer like these serious symptoms of withdrawal, right?
Right. And then like, Blood in the Water, right? What the fuck was the song? Yeah, Blood in the Water. Like the chorus on that one, hurt people, hurt people, hurt people.
But that shit is like
stuff like that
everywhere throughout here. It's like fucking bro. Love is the death of hope. Like
right.
Love, like bring a knife to a gunfight, love, bro. Love, bro, this shit hits.
You were the glue.
Like we're always talking about it like in some sort of capacity of either it being like the most amazing thing in the world or like literally killing me. And I think that ties into like the sort of like smiley face, which I kind of interpret as like a pill. Or like whether it's like medicine or like Molly or something like that, like whichever end of the spectrum you want to interpret it as, that's how I see like it all being tied together as like this addiction, right?
Yeah, sure.
And the metaphors are flowery. They're flowers in the grave, and like it and they never end. Like to the very end of this fucking record, like it is very, very married to its subject matter.
I need blood. I can't seem to love without hurting. Yeah, stuff like that. I mean, Hourglass actually has like one of my favorite lyrics in here in that chorus. Tears in an hourglass is such an insane visual when you think about it, because obviously, sand going down an hourglass, but like one individual tear falling down an hourglass is such a beautiful visual to me.
This band is so married to metaphors, though, that they do run into this issue where they start to repeat phrases that are so fucking common that I think that it actually works against them a little bit, because it's like I've seen the clever side of this band. I've listened to Flowers in the Grave, so that by the time I get to All in My Head and we start to repeat some like extremely familiar lines that are like a dime a dozen in every like metalcore band's repertoire. Not that this is a metalcore band, but metalcore bands are so perfect for this like the undertow is killing me, the demons in my head to style of writing, that's kind of like what that song was doing to me.
I do.
It's my least favorite on the record.
Which one?
But also All in My Head.
Okay.
But I will say that it's probably the only song on the record that I didn't thoroughly enjoy.
Okay, fair.
So
fair.
Least favorite, but I kind of loved everything else though.
Sure. I actually really wanted to kind of touch on, like you said, metalcore. And the reason I want to touch on that is this album's probably got the most amount of variety on a Normandie album yet. There's certainly moments where they flirt with some heavier aspects of this band. And again, it's heavy in the same way that like, it's not,
I think we didn't go far enough.
End of the spectrum metalcore, but it's like it's entry level metalcore to the point where like, yeah, you know, this is certainly
This
a
isn't
breakdown. This
metalcore
is
at
certainly
all. I think
Philip
calling this metalcore
screaming.
is absurd, actually.
No.
Like, I think that is a complete, like,
which is why I'm not calling this
misfire.
album metalcore.
What are you calling it then?
Parts of it metalcore.
No,
I
not
still
even
think
that. I won't
this
even
is
give
a
you that.
pop
No.
rock album.
They're metalcore, like fucking Sleeping with Sirens is metalcore. Like, we're not even really flirting with that, like,
but
actual
yes.
style.
But no, I think that there's enough versatility on
the
here.
guitars get a little crunchy every once in a while.
I think it's enough versatility that you can start slotting this band on more bills than you could probably in the past. Is what I mean.
Sure, I think they do a good job of like running a real fine line between like the type of tour package they could get accepted on. But I will say, like, if we're talking about specifically like the sonically, like the variety and the diversity on this album, I really think this band does not.
We go on the other
enough.
side of the spectrum though, because then you got some super soft stuff as well, like Ritual and Sorry.
Not soft enough though. Not soft enough. I think this
you're
band.
annoying today.
I think this album was like in dire need of like a piano ballad or something that was more like in the Dayseeker arena of being very like programmed or something like that. I think that we do, for the most part, stick to this like style of alt rock that occasionally is a little more rock and then occasionally is a little more like in this alt pop spectrum. But I think we needed a real fucking like out of left field choice that would have probably pulled the, like I would have killed All in My Head to get an acoustic style song on here that really would have like, because I also know
you
how
do
good
touch
this
on
band is
something I agree
acoustically.
with, which is I would have enjoyed something unexpected on this record.
Yeah, it really
but
for me
yes,
needed
like
it.
when I went into Dopamine, I had a feeling that we would get every song I heard on there, and that's exactly what we delivered. You know,
You
and
called
there's-
it earlier with the fucking this being a singles ass band because
sure.
you could have fucking threw the dice and wherever it landed, like that's the single you release, right?
But it's also why I start our discussion off with talking about singles, because like I still think that the single choice for Blood in the Water, even though going back and listening to that one repeatedly before this album drops, I enjoy it way more than I did the first time we heard it alongside that video.
I weirdly agree with what you're saying too, which I don't know why the songs somehow play a little better on this album than they do as singles when they're obviously so strongly cultivated to be singles.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, it's a perplexing thing that I can't really put my finger
It's
on.
strange, but the thing I wanted to touch on,
they should beat those allegations easily. It's weirdly they don't.
Hourglass should have been the first single on here. That fucking Danny Winterbates, Caleb Shomo ass fucking feature is so fun. And then Serotonin should have been right after it.
Interesting. I would say that for me, the two quintessential songs on this album are Flowers in the Grave, which I think is just like, if we're really pulling the metaphor together, it just does it in the most like exquisite way.
It's also the most Normandy song you've ever heard.
Right. And then like, for what it's worth, Ritual is a pop song, and it's one that I think could easily hold its head up against most like modern day pop songs.
Well, that's what I mean. Like I
charting
start
top 100 Billboard style ass type songs.
I look at Ritual and I'm like, get this band on a bill with Paris today.
Yeah, 100%. That's like a perfect like one-to-one comparison.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's not my favorite record of the week, but I'm probably at like an 8.5 on Dopamine.
I think going into this record, I was like, I was
cautious.
Expectations.
Yeah.
I just remembered that like of the three singles I heard, I didn't know that like they felt strong enough that like they really had boosted my anticipation outside of
and comparatively to their previous singles, like one of the singles off White Flag, one of my favorite Normandy song total, Hostage off of Dark and Beautiful Secrets as a single, one of my favorite Normandy songs, probably my favorite Normandy song, period.
Right, like it felt like we were going into this album a little more like with like
we hadn't found it
expectations
yet.
Contained. I will say this, I'm actually quite impressed with the fact that you gave this an 8.5. I would reel this in closer for me personally to like a 7.5.
Interesting.
Similar to Nothing Nowhere, it's like kind of just watching a band do what they do really well and appreciating it. But I would say that I don't think it's quite perfect. And
there's also
I
part
think
of me
I've heard, like respectfully, I've heard better songs from this band.
I don't disagree. I think there's also there is also like a home court advantage type thing with this band, or for like coming to me where it's like, this is the type of music I love in 2024.
I get that. And like in that sense, you're right. Like this band has a high floor. It's like, I shouldn't have been so worried coming into this because like it just ended up being another Normandie album I really enjoy. But there is a big part of me that does feel like for one reason or another, this band always seems to scratch at their full potential without ever fully like enveloping it. And I don't know. It feels like Dayseeker a lot to me, where it's like Sleep Talk was like right there. And then we got the new album and it finally came together. And that's like where Normandie seems to be like resting consistently.
We need to double down on a theme like Dopamine had like some connective tissue. I need all of it on the next LP. And I think we need features, and then we need the best Normandie song ever written as the first single or nothing.
I will say this. Blood in the Water, the Hurt People, I think is one of the flatter melodies throughout this album. And I think I heard that song and immediately thought, you put in a feature for this and you would have bodied this song so hard, it would have immediately became my favorite. Like, it just feels like such a missed fucking opportunity to me.
Fair. I also want to shout out Glue.
Glue is a phenomenal closer.
That comes together I was concerned for like the first minute of that song, thinking maybe not the track I would have closed this record out on, until that last minute pulls everything together in such a beautiful fashion with like some... it's like gang vocals or some shit. I don't know. There's some shit happening at the end vocally that's just, it's excellent. I had a great time with that track.
I think overall,
very warm track.
Good album. Really enjoyed it. But I think this band still has their magnum opus in them and they haven't quite hit it yet.
You're not wrong about that. Last and certainly not least is Digital Paranoia 2052 by Cult. This is the Japanese Outfit's second studio album, released the 6th of February via FCLS Records. Digital Paranoia 2052 consists of, I think it's 11 tracks, and is the much anticipated follow-up to 2022's pair of EPs, Chapter 1, Memento Mori, and Chapter 2, Tokyo Insomnia, the latter of which I fucking adored. I liked Chapter 1 as well, but Chapter 2 is fucking phenomenal. Okay. Really enjoyed that one.
Okay. So your anticipation for this record high, is that fair to say?
There's a couple of things regarding this record that got that anticipation pretty high. And part of it was the list of features. There's like 5 or 6 people featured on this record. We got 1,000 Below feature on here. Mm-hmm. We got Beauty School Dropout featured on here. You know, 2 podcast darlings, so to speak. Love those bands. Mm-hmm. And then additionally, the artwork for this is essentially some Danny Phantom style Nickelodeon shit. And just aesthetically, it is beautiful. And then you partner that with the fact that Cult is such a dependably cool band. Like, at the very least, I know I'm going to come out of a listening experience with Cult thinking this band is still cool as fuck.
I will give you that. This band's aesthetic and presentation does a lot of the legwork for them.
And it's super like 2024 is what it feels like. Mm-hmm. You know, this band just always feels like they're
present.
Like, present.
Right.
And it goes a long way, culturally speaking.
This is an interesting one because I'm not sure where to start with it. I think that
explain Cult's sound. I feel like that's an important thing to establish.
I can do it in 2 words.
Chase Atlantic.
Yes.
I think it's an important thing to establish for this review. For anyone unfamiliar with Cult.
Yeah.
This is essentially, but like there's also some curveballs on here. Curveballs to their sound. I either previously was not aware of or are freshly relevant to their sound.
Yeah, but let's just get it out of the way. This sort of vocal auto-tune style is so ingrained in my mind as Chase Atlantic that even when I heard something similar on that Nothing Nowhere album we talked about earlier, I was like, oh, so we're doing a little Chase on this song?
This is the closest vocally you can get to MIDI from Chase Atlantic.
Yes.
And then, like, again, a ton of sampling, so much sampling. Digital Paranoia, the closing track, the title track on here, the first fucking 40 seconds of that song is like only sampling.
This band,
and they put together like a beat from those handful of samples they have at the top.
They're very fun.
They're super fun.
They're real fucking
very
fun,
fresh. But then additionally, like the probably the best way I would describe their sound is electronic post-hardcore, even though that doesn't actually completely do justice to what this is.
Yeah, this is like,
they're a hard band to describe.
This is a little bit of like this sort of alt hip hop scene. Like, this isn't terribly far away from, again, that Nothing Nowhere album we were discussing. Like, there's a through line with all of these bands where they all kind of like share or some similarities that, like, if I had to bucket them, I would put them all together. You know what I mean?
There's also a fuckload more dubstep on this album.
That's the
than
really
I
unexpected
expected.
aspect of this, though I will say that I wasn't a super big fan of it.
Ooh.
The dubstep is an aspect of this record that lost me. I just feel like it either does not suit my taste or I don't think suits this album incredibly well.
It's not the main draw for me, but it wasn't enough of a, it didn't take away from the experience for me.
Normally I would like a stylistic diversion, but I think it doesn't work super well here.
Speaking of stylistic diversion, though, like, man, Cult are one of the finest examples of this scene of being just unpredictable. I can look at that Normandie track listing and know exactly how each of those songs are going to sound.
Yeah.
I cannot look at this track listing and tell you what Scorpion's going to sound like or what Girls Lie sound like, Me, Myself, and I, If I Stay High, Digital Paranoia. Each of these songs could be something completely different from what I had in my head going into them, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
And then even listening to them, like, you can't predict where verse 2 is going to go. You can't predict what the next sample is. Like, you know, it's just so, I don't know, it's so fresh.
It's very creatively rich, yeah. I think this band just, like, they're interested in just, like, trying things and, like, sort of trying to, like, carve their own path a little bit. And that's what makes it an exciting, like, listen from start to finish, even if I don't always love everything that they're doing. So, like, I think, like, at the jump, the first, like, 4 tracks are nearly perfect. And I'm 2052 is whatever, just kind of like in intro, but yeah. Vanish Scorpion, and then my favorite of those 3, Artificial Idiot featuring Cypress, are just like a perfect distillation of like what this band is. Like, I think it just like perfectly like introduces you to Cult in a way. And then from there, it's a little more touch and go for me. I think that
you make that main cut right at Girls Lie. What is your feeling on that one?
Because I think that ended up being a little bit of a letdown for me. Even though on paper, it should have been one of my favorite tracks on here with the Beauty School Dropout feature.
Yeah.
I just think that it ends up being a little bit bland compared to like
the few
tracks that came before it. But I think we course correct right away with Kill Without the K.
One of the best songs
Tilly.
on here.
Yeah, and probably my favorite feature out of everyone on here.
Yeah,
which is
the Tilly one was
surprising.
good.
But then I'll say, like, I like Eyeshadow, like, was completely lost on me. So that's what I mean. It's like very, very hot and cold.
I liked Eyeshadow.
This is where, like, they introduced that dubstep aspect, that like heavier EDM stuff, and I'm just like, this isn't quite what I'm looking for, I suppose.
Yeah.
So like I like that you made a choice. I just didn't like the choice.
Me, Myself, and I might be my favorite song by this band, period.
It's got the most Paramore coded riff I've ever heard in my whole life. I notice it enough to know what they're going for, but not so much so that it like deters me from really enjoying the song, in a sense that there's a moment where I'm like, is this like a little too close? And then I'm like, no, I think that it's like very familiar, obviously, but in a like ode to kind of way that doesn't take away from it.
Also love in an album filled with features that for a track called Me, Myself, and I, they would go out of their way to feature cult, and cult all spelled in different ways.
Yeah, Me, Myself, and I is an absolute fucking standout on this record. I believe it was a single as well.
It came out like...
If not, it should have been.
It came out early December.
It did? Okay.
And I didn't discover it until like our yearly sort of like sabbatical from the show. Like mid-January, I discovered this one and I was like, holy shit, this song is incredible. And it's been like my most played song of this year so far. And it's not even my favorite version of this song because they also put out a fucking Nightcore version of it that's like somehow the same length and everything's just tuned up faster and it's so fucking fun.
This album is short enough where I think if you slapped on a couple fun bonus tracks like that, like a remix or a, Nightcore version of a track, I think that would have been a fun choice.
Yeah, like I don't think it would have taken away anything.
James from Thousand Below is almost too comfortable here in a way that in a way that I might say, hey, if you're a Thousand Below fan, I don't know how metalcore this band is going to sound moving forward because the style almost suits them better as well.
That mutant feature with Thousand Below, really good. I liked If I Stay High.
Enjoyed that as well. And then Digital Paranoia was like
I think it's a higher point on this.
Oh, really? I thought
liked
it was just okay.
I liked all that. Just from like a production standpoint, like it's so hard not to appreciate so much of just the things happening on this record.
We programmed the fuck out of this bitch.
I'm not saying it's all good, but like, I don't know. Sometimes cult is just fun to listen to.
Sure.
To try to figure out what the fuck's even going on.
Sure. Yeah. So it's like, it's one of these bands where it's like, I'm only so disappointed when I don't like a song because at least I heard somebody with like a vision. You know what I mean?
They tried something, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to knock them for like trying something out of left field.
Right. Like nothing about this feels like a bland, like run of the mill type beat. Everything is like, man, what if we got weird with it?
Right. And that's what I mean though. Like you can't predict how a song will end compared to how it starts even. So
all that being said, it's like a 7 out of 10 for me. It's like an album I enjoyed, but probably was my least favorite of the week. I think Cult are kind of visionaries that haven't sort of like fully realized the vision yet.
I don't think you're wrong. I could see myself talking this one up to a crazy number, but I think I'm going to sit at an 8.
Okay.
And I think I'm pretty comfortable with that. It's not all perfect, but
it's like I like every decision they're making. Yeah, I just don't think in the end it all comes together perfectly.
There's been another band that we've had similar discussions about as far as like crashing and burning, but like watching them crash is part of the fun too. Like part of me is just happy they try certain things.
Yeah, I remember we kind of had this discussion with Bad Flower a couple years back where it's like...
That might be what it was, yeah.
Even when they miss, at least they miss in the most interesting ways possible.
So it's
like,
not
at least they're doing something.
Right, so it's not like if you dislike a song, it was a complete loss, but it still was a crash, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. As always... SOTS Podcast is brought to you by Shibori Threads, the clothing label of the alternative music scene. Let's get into the news.
The news.
The L's and W's of the 2024 Grammy Awards. The 2024 Grammys took place Sunday, February 4th, celebrating the last year in music and included some familiar faces from the scene. Paramore took home awards for Best Alternative Music Performance for their song This Is Why and Best Rock Album for their record of the same name. This marks the band's second and third wins of their career after winning the Grammy for Best Rock Song for their track Ain't It Fun in 2015. At the time, Hayley Williams was the first woman to win the category since Alanis Morissette in 1999. This year marked the first time in history a female-fronted band had won the category of Best Rock Album. The band was quoted as saying, "It's an honor for Paramore to be a small but constant reminder for people to keep pushing these rock and alternative spaces to be more inclusive." Elsewhere, first-time nominees Spiritbox were unable to defeat industry titans Metallica, who took home the award for Best Metal Performance. This marked Metallica's 10,000th win in their 30-year career.
I hate this fucking DBZ style roundup you're doing here.
Last week on Dragon Ball Z.
It's a Spiritbox song.
I need somebody to hit me with the Vegeta charging up fucking pre-breakdown.
God. Is that the fucking trend?
Alpha Wolf, where are you at?
We need that trend. The fucking charge up the breakdown would go insane.
You know what I mean? Like, just keep it running. Let's do it right now. Go get my guitar.
And then 40 seconds in, you finally let out that scream.
Right.
And you hold. Oh my God.
That's precisely like
Someone take
the
notes.
song Kakarot or something like insanely dumb. Let's start with the W,
shit.
Marcos. Let's talk a little bit about Paramore's win here.
Completely unforgivable that Paramore is the first band female fronted to win this award. Full due respect to I'm so happy Paramore won. This is more like, how the fuck did it take until 2015 for that to happen?
I think the writing is
doing?
on the wall, Marcos.
What were we doing?
Which is to say that I think this category has been so legacy dominated by the same fucking 5 nu metal bands that anyone else trying to break in had their fucking, like, the odds were so stacked against them, it was nearly impossible.
Despicable. Like, this makes all of the Grammys discourse so much worse. Finding out it took this long for someone of Paramore's caliber to even win this award. Paramore had arguments fucking all the way back in 2009.
You know what's curious? I do say that the same legacy bands I've probably owned in this category, in a sense that I think
they probably haven't.
Foo Fighters has probably won this at least 5 times.
Well, they might.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I will say that rock has become such a nebulous type of thing that, like, there really has been an open sort of possibility for so many different artists to win this. Like, I don't think at this point we would have batted an eye if Billie Eilish or Olivia Rodrigo had been nominated for Rock Album of the Year.
Yeah.
And they're popular enough. They're more popular than Paramore, you might argue.
They're probably double as popular.
That they could have taken it easily, right? Yeah. But they didn't. So it is wild that not only did it take this long, but it's also kind of crazy Paramore were the ones who fucking finally pulled it off. Because you do feel like this band... I would not have been surprised if the Grammys, like is their nature, would never give a band like this their flowers ever. Because there's always a Metallica or the Beatles who took home Music Video of the Year, the 2024.
L. That's an L.
If you're listening to this 20 years in the future... We're talking about the 2024. We're talking fucking 50 years after the Beatles were relevant.
Beatles have won 4 more Grammys 20 years from now.
You're probably right.
I know I'm right.
This feels so like cheating. This
This is an unserious establishment, the Grammys.
Yeah.
I cannot believe, and again, like Paramore had arguments 15 years ago for Album of the Year in the rock category. And then anytime between like 2009 and when the Grammys started, there's probably been plenty of options. Evanescence comes to mind, you know, like there's been some fucking damn great female fronted artists over the years. Female fronted bands. Yes. Yeah. So I don't know. Part of me is like, I'm so happy for Paramore. And then there's another part of me that's like, what the fuck has the Grammys even been doing? And I know that's always the topic of like, what the fuck is the Grammys even on about right now?
They're saying Spiritbox thanks for playing, but it's Metallica's year, if we're being honest, as it was 4 years ago and 3 years before that.
Yeah.
And 2 years before that and 4 years, and fucking forever and always, right? Like they just cannot help themselves, right? If it's not Metallica, it's Foo Fighters, or it's somehow fucking Ozzy Osbourne, or the Lamb of God by the fucking grace of God, or hey, here comes Slipknot again. Like it's fine. Like they just like Grammy voters see a name they're familiar with and lock it in. That's all the work they're doing for that week.
Of course, I think everyone was putting their hands up to the sky and saying like, you know, Spiritbox, take my energy, go win this Grammy.
We were trying to Spiritbox into the fucking win. Yeah.
That said, I still don't know if this should have been the song. Like, man, I could have seen like Rotoscope being.
Marcos, the song could have been whatever the
I
fuck
know,
you wanted it to
I
be.
know.
It wouldn't have made a difference.
I know.
Holy Roller wasn't going to win this. Fucking Rotoscope wasn't going to fucking Circle Me wouldn't have won this.
Constance.
In the same way that you could have picked any Bring Me the Horizon song when they were nominated, they would have lost. Any I Prevail song, they would have lost. You need to do... What is it for Paramore? 20 years of fucking indentured servitude to fucking alternative rock before they'll even consider giving you an award. You need to be ubiquitous. Your name needs to register without them even listening to the music. It's
Also,
all they care about.
Another Grammy L for you. Way too much fucking shit gets nominated in general. Like category wise.
What do you mean?
Why the fuck does the Grammy have 700 different categories? I know there's a lot of different genres.
They're still doing like Christian Album of the Year. It's like,
what the fuck are we doing?
Grammys and state, fucking church, Grammy, state, like separate this shit for me, please.
And then like, don't even get me started on half of those. Like, okay, you're gonna do fucking best Christian album of the year, best rock album of the year, whatever.
Yeah, and Prada's not gonna take it.
At least don't announce them during the fucking red carpet. Wait for the actual show to start.
Under Oath doesn't have a Christian rock album of the year. Are you fucking kidding me? I just found out this was a category 2 weeks ago.
Like, and then you talk about that, and it's like, okay, well, that probably means we have Christian producer of the year, Christian fucking song of the year, Christian fucking feature of the year. Like, at some point, it becomes too much. We don't need 700 fucking categories at the Grammys every year.
I will say this: some interesting takeaways here. So, I like that Taylor Swift shows up at this, and she's like, "New album, new era. Let's fucking go."
Promotional purposes only. I think that was actually fucking bars.
Paramore didn't even fucking show up. Would have been really fucking cool for them to be like, Ayo, like new era. Like they did it later in an Instagram post, but I want Hayley Williams and fucking the boys. What the fuck are their names? Zach and the other guy, Josh. Whatever.
So it's been different since Germ left, for I'm telling you.
It's not the same. Like, why don't I get a super fucking... When can our scene, like, embrace the limelight? We got pictures of, like, Spiritbox on the red carpet, man. It sucks that Spiritbox will never win that award and then be like, oh, by the way, new EP's out on Spotify right the fuck now. You know what I mean? You know how cool it would be for us to get to fucking live the experience every Swiftie got last Sunday? Where they get to fucking lose their minds, you know? How cool would it be for fucking My Chemical Romance to have won last year for Foundations of Decay and been like, and the new album it's on is coming out in 2 months. Fucking pre-order that bitch. That would be cool. We never get this shit.
Would have been crazy.
Never get this shit. Though, actually, now that I think about it.
Did the All Press Awards ever do that shit?
Was it? I think it was Welcome to the Black Parade was premiered at like the MTV Music Video Awards or something.
I think you're right.
Did All Press do that shit? Who fucking cares, bro? The Billboard Top 10 Hot Hard Rock Songs. This week, Bad Omens commanded the top 3 spots of the charts with Just Pretend at number 1, followed by Van featuring Poppy, which premiered on the charts this week, and The Death of Peace of Mind, respectfully. Just Pretend stands at an incredibly impressive 73 weeks on the chart, with The Death of Peace of Mind trailing just shy at 65 weeks. Linkin Park's Lost from last year's Meteora re-release, featuring never-before-heard vocals from the late Chester Bennington, sits at 4, and Sleep Token's Granite rounds out the top 5. From there, Bring Me the Horizon's Kool-Aid comes in at 6, followed by a bunch of fucking songs I haven't heard, Super Heaven's Youngest Daughter at 7, Disturbed featuring Ann Wilson's Don't Tell Me at 8, Foo Fighters' Under You at 9, and Wisps' Your Face at 10. Take it all in. Thoughts?
So next year, those last 4 are getting nominated for Grammys.
And I believe the answer is probably somehow Taylor Swift. A band ever commanded 10 spots? Like the top 10 on the charts?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I bet rap, you look at like fresh off a Drake release, 7, 8, 9, 10 of those are Drake.
Okay.
You know?
Okay, so that is possible. I'm looking at Bad Omens and I'm like, we got a second wind for like a villain and artificial suicide in us?
Maybe.
Can we take top 5?
There's a bit to unpack here. I think that it's interesting. It's Granite for Sleep Token and not.
it threw me for a curve.
The other one.
I'm like, isn't it still just the summoning? Like, how the fuck did Granite sneak in here?
I'll take it.
I'm not mad.
Love Granite.
I'm not mad. It just feels like somebody like threw a dart and Granite is the song that was on there. Like, it makes no sense to me, you know? Maybe if we looked a little further, maybe the summoning is just outside the 10 at this point or something. You know what I mean?
I'm willing to bet. I love that Lost is here from Linkin Park, not Bring Me.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I like that Bring Me is here, though I find it a little strange that every other Bring Me song has fallen off.
It's so weird. It's always so weird which ones take off. Because if you ask me which one between Kool-Aid, Dark Side, and Lost is going to be the biggest, I tell you Lost forever. 12 times out of 10.
But even that being said, Dark Side feels like maybe the most easily commercial success, right?
Yeah.
So very strange, right? Just very strange. Like none of it quite adds up to me. How do you feel about this smattering who's who of bands that you're like vaguely familiar or overly familiar with? Just sort of like, I mean, the Disturbed and Foo Fighters of it all is like Legacy, right? Legacy is always going to get you in there. But like, I'm looking at like Wisp and Super Heaven and I'm like, are these Legacy bands and their names just aren't registering for me?
I think Super Heaven is. Wisp, maybe. I don't know enough about, like, I'm curious of those 4 or 5 songs, which one we would enjoy the most.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you.
I'm going to tell you right now, that Disturbed one's going to be a swing and a miss for me. There's just something about it where I'm looking at like a who's fucking Ann Wilson. Like,
I was going to ask, do you know?
No, I have no fucking idea. Foo Fighters is a band that I deeply appreciate, but has not like connected with me in probably a decade at this point. So it's like really like the other two that could be big maybes, right? Part of me did want to check them out and just be like, is there anything to this? Are you here for a reason? Linkin Park, though, celebrating its 1-year anniversary of Lost the day we're recording this. Interesting to see that. I wonder if that probably ends up being the one out of all the ones we're discussing.
Lost came out February?
Yeah. I think this might quietly sit here the longest. I think Bad Omens may come and go, and Lost by Linkin Park will go to 3 and drop to 8 and go back to 6.
I don't agree. I mean, Just Pretend has been on here for fucking 73 weeks. Like at this point, like who the fuck even understands what's going on anymore?
I don't understand anything.
I do love though that like it's our babies up there. It's not your Wisps and your Super Heaven, and then
we're on top now.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, I don't even know how to act anymore.
Right, we're the captain now. Like, right. Get it.
I'm not used to first place. We're
no longer the alternative. We're the predominant seed.
I'm used to like 7th place, but still popping champagne because we got there. But like first place, I don't even know what to do with myself anymore.
That's right. Like just wait till Motionless drops their new fucking ballad in like 2 months, right. And they slot themselves right in that 10 as well. Moving onwards. Like Moths to Flames return with 2 new singles. The band dropped songs Paradigm Shift. The sound of stage, and Angels Weep. This last week, their first new music of the year, and since May of last year. The band also teased an album announcement. Will be coming this following month. Chris Roeder on each track's individual meaning per Kerrang. Paradigm triggers about being stuck in a levitate state of sleep paralysis, including a lot of feelings of anxiety. It's meant to represent the feeling of being stuck, desperately wanting to run from everything you're falling into, but somehow you always end up back in the same place. Angels Weep tells the story of a man who finds himself in a place in a dense, dark forest. Something about it resembles heaven, but more or less has become a place where God and angels collectively go to die. A place that's desolate and empty, hopeless, and lacks any promise of getting better. Marcos, heavy. Heavy on levels. Like Moths to Flames has never been angrier, and they've never been deeper in their thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, that's the consistent thing about like Moths to Flames these last handful of years is just when you think they can't get heavier.
Yeah.
they turn it up just a notch.
Just when you thought like Monster Flames could not get angrier,
They turn it up
somehow
just
they're
a
more
notch.
pissed.
yeah, right.
It's the video for Paradigm Trigger that fucking Chris Roder's got the gorilla grip on the mic. It's wild, bro.
Insane.
Wild.
Insane. That said, didn't get the video, just got the visualizer. I think I prefer Angel Weeps.
And I think I quietly prefer Paradigm Trigger. Paradigm Shift, which I think I called it Paradigm Trigger earlier, which was a mistake on my end.
Which I guess is to say good pair of singles.
They are a good pair of singles. Paradigm Shift just ends on such a punch, and it's a more conventional music video, which I think drew me in a little bit when we were checking these out, as opposed to Angel's Weep, which is more of a visual.
Is it Paradigm Shift or Trigger now?
Now it's really fucking me up as well. Is it Paradigm Shift?
It's not,
or Paradigm Trigger?
It's not something I want to get wrong. It's Paradigm
Deeply
Trigger.
apologetic to this band. Deeply apologetic to this band.
It's Paradigm Trigger.
For double fucking that. Deeply apologetic. Like Monster Flames return with 2 new singles. The band dropped songs Paradigm Trigger and Angel's Weep.
I like for the single artwork for this that it's like a very altered version of the Dark Divine artwork. It's like if you just fucking burned the guy on that cover alive.
Darker and more divine.
It's like a skeleton walking through like this. It's all just creepy looking. But
darker and more divine.
It is.
Aesthetically, like Monster Flames have been absolutely fucking knocking it out of the park. I also like their new logo redesign too, which is more of this like washed sort of like script.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's very neat. The Ghost Inside have released new single Wash It Away.
It's been
The band also announced new album Searching for Solace, which will arrive April 19th via Epitaph Records. The song follows 2023 singles Earn It and Death Grip, both of which will be featured on the album. Bassist Jim Riley had this to say on the record per consequence.net. There's more singing and song structure than on the previous album, but there are also some of the heaviest songs we've done. Marcos, stop me if we've been here before.
I can't believe that's not an AI response.
I can't, right. Like this is a Chat GPT fucking promo right here. If I've ever seen one.
Why? You don't even have to interview the band.
Do you even say this? Yeah, man, you're right. Like,
I'm gonna be real, bro. There's more singing and song structure than on the previous album.
But the heaviest shit we've ever done. All right, fuck off.
Crowd erupts.
Respectfully. We really know who we are, and we also feel comfortable stepping into the future. Band is doing butt rock songs. This is a new chat. Like, you can read through these in the fucking funniest way possible.
See right through
I'm
this.
surprised that bands even try to parse this language. Like, even bother putting in the effort anymore.
Right.
And just say, like, hey, we've got some metalcore songs and some more radio-friendly ones.
Right.
Enjoy.
I'm trying to put my kid through college with this next one.
We've literally been a band for 20 years. This is a new chapter, but it's not disconnected from what the band sounded like before. We're still heavy.
Hey, whoa,
heavy.
guys.
Subtext.
Breakdowns are still there.
It's more of an extension of it. We're excited by it, bro. I can't with these fucking bands
extension
anymore.
of it.
I can't with these fucking
You
bands
fucking
anymore.
losers.
They also announced the U.S. headlining tour with support from Paleface, Bleed From Within, and Great American Ghost.
And again, I'm not laughing strictly at the Ghost Inside for these comments.
This is the culture we've
I
cultivated.
can name 40 other bands that have delivered this exact same
The Ghost
messaging.
Inside are forced to do this. They might as well be like giving this statement at gunpoint. Like I can see Jim Riley sweating on making sure he gets the phrasing perfect. We are going in an exciting new direction, but haven't lost our original vision. It's
Bro,
like, oh, fuck,
I
man.
love the idea of like doing focus groups and reading like 9 different variations of this same thing.
Right, you take
and then getting the temperature.
metalcore teenagers and feed them this statement, and they're like, I don't know, sounds to me like you're going soft. And like, all right, fuck, scrap it.
Right.
Though that's exactly, I believe, how this was taken in the r/metalcore community.
No.
Right. To no one's surprise, r/metalcore sniffed out a rat.
And then
And they
say-
gave him the
Bro,
fucking shoe.
I
Yeah.
can see the top comment now. It's like, okay, anyway, go stream like Master Flames.
R.I.P. the ghost inside, right? Fucking they can only accept a band for who they want them to be and never for who they are. That being said,
Did you get around to that last Ghost Inside album?
I did actually.
It was okay.
It was okay. I'm
Obviously
actually,
a lot of emotions around that one.
right. Like we're coming back in the most we're coming back type way imaginable,
Yeah.
right? Like this band can do whatever they want for the remainder of their career more than any other band in this scene,
Yeah.
right? The fact that they're still here and still making music is a gift from above. But that does not mean we can't have our fun and criticize the nature of this genre and the complete fucking
100%.
shit show it is.
100%.
Because the Ghost Inside have delivered to us an I Prevail song as presented by the Ghost Inside.
Right.
Let's not beat around the bush. Is it a good version of that? Yeah, I think so.
Where's the co-write from Wage War on this? Is it on there?
Right. Where's the credit to Tyler Smith? Like,
Yeah.
for all intents and purposes, the Ghost Inside looked around the room and said, like, we want a little bit of that money too.
Yeah, I can't blame them.
We've earned it more than you guys.
Honestly, big thing I really want to talk about here is the tour, which I don't know how much of it is just Paleface calling to me.
You're
But,
liking this lineup, huh?
This lineup is not like, I kind of could see myself like, okay, there's probably a Ghost in Set side I would enjoy.
You're such a fucking mark. You're such a marketing mark because this is exactly the play-by-play from Epitaph.
I know.
All right, we're going to serve them up a slightly softer single, but then we're going to announce a tour with 3 of the heaviest fucking metalcore bands in this scene, and they're going to be really conflicted about their feelings.
Right.
They're going to be really, I don't know about this song, but like, can't miss this tour.
Right. And then, Bleed From Within's only going to play America once this year type thing.
Right. Yeah. Paleface, real hot up and coming
Yeah.
band. Great American Ghost with like insane amount of like metalcore cachet. Like with this band is like, or this band or potentially this label knows exactly what they're doing.
Oh, Epitaph wouldn't be around this long if they didn't know exactly what they were
Right.
doing.
There's an r/metalcore moderator like at the helms of this marketing campaign. And they're like trying to like tread that fine line of helping this band like explode to the point they no longer need their original fan base, but also hold on to them long enough until they get there, right?
I mean, all of that to say, this still sounds like the Ghost Inside to me. For the Ghost Inside, I know, like, this is not that far out of, this is not that surprising.
I will say this is probably the most excited I've been about this band in like quite some time. With the last
not
album
wrong.
feeling a little bit like flat for me outside of the
Emotions of
excitement,
it,
right?
yeah.
Of having this band come back. Like, I thought Death Grip was a fucking banger of a track.
Yeah.
And now this is like obviously like a different like side of them. One that's more akin to the size of other bands. But they pull it off. So credit to them, right? Idola return with new single No Weapon Form Shall Prosper.
Stare into an endless mass of liars and deceivers. Not a one among them tells the truth.
New album Eviscerate releases April 12th on Blue Swan Records. The band shared the following on the new album. This album was made during a period of great turmoil, loss, and tragedy, as I'm sure many of you have also experienced in these last few chaotic years. The album is filled with sonic and lyrical themes of grief, distress, violence, and mourning. Vocalist Andrew Michael Wells on the lead single. It is a song that explores the depths of societal division and loathing, a song crying out to every lost soul in the overwhelming chaos of modernity, inspired by watching a culture brainwashed by social media descend into depravity, deception, self-aggrandizement, and hate, a commentary on what it's like to witness people tear each other apart from the inside out, Marcos.
Self-aggrandizement is the first time I've ever heard that word.
Heavy, bro.
Holy shit.
This is how, Jim Riley, this is how you pitch a new song, all right? You got to use words like overwhelming chaos. You got to use words like self-aggrandizement. You got to use words like social media. That's how you reel the people in. That's how you reel them in.
It's all your triggers.
Is this fucking play about us? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yo.
I mean, these are a lot of words to say cancel culture, but by all means.
You're not wrong. Eviscerate is such a tight fucking album title. I don't know. I love that. Love that. Love the artwork. Love the energy of this song. I love the title. I love the track listing names. Everything about Idola I still really enjoy.
I think we need to I think we need to call it like it is at this point. Sergio Medina is the best thing to happen to Swancore, arguably since the inception of Swancore.
Sergio Medina saved Swancore.
Quite honestly, the way that he's been weaponized in the bands that he's in is fucking unreal to me. I think he's just like he's just got, man, this is like when the Buccaneers pulled Brady in. Like you took a franchise that was on the outs and you pulled it like an all-star MVP to fucking make it skyrocket. Like insane levels of fucking talent in that one individual and like translatable into every single one of these fucking bands that he even touches.
It is insane watching like the hype and excitement build for this band album to album. Like comparatively to what it is now, like holy shit, we've made strides.
Yeah, 100%. And you have to wonder if some of that is time spent in Dance Gavin Dance, but then you take it a step further and wonder to yourself, with all of the drama, to put it lightly, within that band, and then to present a single like this with yours, you think you could have just made the full step, right?
Drop DGD, you mean?
Right. Like instead of being a piece of this, when you're fronting this, it feels maybe more worth your time to fully like invest in this project than to be a part of that other one at this point.
Idola's interesting.
That might not have felt like the case a couple years ago, but it certainly feels like the case after hearing this song.
There seems to be like a fever building up with this band. Like I think that people are really into Idola to the point where like when this band announced this record, they also added like some weird verbiage where it's like, and finally, like our final,
right, the end of the trilogy, right, the final chapter,
enough to like scare a couple people.
I mean, let's not kid ourselves. And maybe they've done a touch of this before, so it's not fair to fully say that they are running the Sleep Token playbook excellently. Down to the aesthetics in the video, the way they sort of present, like the language they use to describe like the album and the song. Like they give it all such a very like incredible amount of weight that other bands do not lay upon. Like I think that this band has a large sort of conceptual nature to everything they do. It's like you watch it in the video with like these masked figures just standing in the background and stuff like that. And like this sort of like huge, like explosive artwork that they like this like symbol that like represents.
I guess I was initially confused at when you say it all out loud. Yes. I guess I was initially confused because with Sleep Token, some of it feels so unspoken. So much,
but they so directly speak it in a way that they can't even say the Ticketmaster queue was busted. They have to be like, the machines that program the opportunity for you to invest in this cult have been depleted sufficiently in a way that we might, it's just like silliness, but it's Sleep Token silliness.
By far the funniest thing with Sleep Token.
When you can't break character, it's hilarious.
Right. Not being able to break that character, even though you are now massive to the point where you can't just address that bots exist on Ticketmaster.
Right. Someday Sleep Token's van is going to get robbed and they're going to be like in the fucking twilight of dusk. thieves filled the street. Like, whatever. You know,
I can't, like, it's so profound, I can't even, like, begin to formulate what it should sound like.
This Idola video and Andrew's fucking, like, sword fighting the machines. Like, it's like we're obviously, like, in
initially
scope,
that's what I thought you meant
the same way
with the katana, and I was gonna be like, shut the fuck up.
But this is how this fan fucking presented themselves on the last album as well. Like, they're like, Idola presents themselves as like a thought experiment, right?
This band presents themselves a lot differently than they did fucking 6-7 years ago, though. Like, they have a fucking confidence and energy in this video that did not used to exist. And I'm not just talking about Andrew Wells pulling off the shirt any chance he could get. Right. But, like, the fucking, the hand shit and the, like, oh my God.
I think they knew they ate with this
showmanship is at, like, 11 on this record.
They presented like they ate.
Yeah.
Right. Rent was due.
Yada, yada.
Boundaries have dropped new single Easily Erased.
I still see you when I close my eyes. I can't even notice when you're not near me. How something's never changed all of this time, and I still can't keep the peace.
New album Death is Little More releases March 29th on 3 Dot Recordings. Vocalist Matt McDougall on the new song via Lambgoat. Death is Little More. Death is Little More is the culmination of our efforts at their deepest and darkest. We wanted to create something that embraces, frightens, and calls the listener to action. It's 1 part diary and 1 part doomsday. You know what? Fuck it. Every band just talks like
King
fucking
810 ass album title.
It's actually The Ghost Inside is the only band who isn't like weaving this fucking web of metaphors to describe all their shit. Inferno Canto 1. Dante mentions dying.
It is not that deep, boys. What are we talking about? Inferno.
Proverbs 16:2. Yeah, so anyways, Inferno Canto 1, Dante mentions dying would be barely any worse than living in a bitter black forest of existence, an idea I took and largely applied to the record thematically. Death is Little More is about life at its most difficult. You're not going to end your life, but you're so stressed and overwhelmed that your life ending would feel like just another incident on the list. The concept stuck with me. I actually do like that sort of presentation. The new album includes features from Loki Key of Alpha Wolf, Matt Honeycutt of Kubla Khan Texas, and Marcus Vick of Inman Animate.
Pretty stacked feature list.
That's the stackest. What are you fucking talking about? How do you get more stacked?
I'm coming off of a reality where Nothing Nowhere served up 15 of those features last year.
Fine, but like reasonably, this is stacked.
This is good. You know, for inflation purposes.
You're also getting some artists at like levels of them peaking, right? Like Loki Key and Marcus Vick, and arguably that fucking Kubla Khan Texas EP is my favorite thing they've ever done too. So like in my books, like we're doing what?
3 Dot's Periphery, right?
Yeah. I
didn't realize 3 Dot was anything but Periphery.
No, I think they've also done like, forgive me if I'm wrong, but who was the fucking Jason Richardson? It might have been 3 Dot.
I mean, sure,
I think
stuff like that might make sense.
Like some experimental stuff. Yeah.
I just didn't realize we were actively going out and fielding talent like Boundaries, you know? Yeah.
Sure.
See, I don't know what the last record came out on. I don't think it was 3 Dot.
I don't fucking remember. I want to say Pure Noise, but I could be wrong. How do you what do you
Easily Erased? How do I feel about it? It's good. This video is strangely familiar though.
What do you mean?
Like from a settings wise, like this looks like it was filmed at the same location the last Nothing Nowhere fucking Knocked Loose.
Yeah, Knocked Loose, the Nothing Nowhere of hardcore.
Right. Video came from, and then you also have like these conceptual like story bits, like black and white Alisana the Emptiness style things that are like interweaved.
Right. There's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think the thing that caught me the most off guard, having really never paid too close attention to Boundaries, is that their drummer does vocals.
Yeah, I felt like
it caught me way off guard seeing it in the video.
Part of that made me feel like, have I just not watched like a Boundaries video recent enough to have like put 2 and 2 together? Because I remember checking out that last album, but then I couldn't remember if I actually watched like any single or anything like that.
Yeah.
I will say this. There's some choices on the song I don't love. There's a moment where like the instrumentals cut out and we just do like a clean vocal, and it what's the word for it? It's like it took me out of it in a way that like it should, like it didn't feel natural. It felt like
the production choice felt wrong. Like something was weird.
Right. Like we made a choice, but I don't think it was to the benefit of the song.
Which is essentially that like your singer just it's only the singing, right? It's just strictly a what do they call that stuff? Not a vibrato. I don't know.
Acapella.
So
whatever, it's fucking isolated vocals.
Isolated like acapella style vocal for a second, and it's like it super takes you out of the song in a way that I don't think it ever really recovers. Even with the breakdown.
Well, no,
breakdown's
it recovers.
fun.
It recovers fucking
okay.
tenfold. It got me back at the end by doing like fucking doubling down on like 2 different fucking breakdowns.
Sure,
like, don't get me wrong.
whatever.
Like I was like, I didn't end that song disappointed, but it was so
end that
abrupt
song-
of a fucking change that like in the middle of it I was thrown.
I end the song still thinking about that moment though, but not in like a great way.
I wonder if I'll come around on it. We'll have to circle back to this and see how we feel about it.
Yeah, those are gut reactions.
Yeah,
so.
gut reactions. Marks, a couple of anniversaries before we get out of here. Panic at the Disco premiered The Ballad of Mona Lisa on MTV 13 years ago on February 8th, 2011. Remember when music videos were premiered on MTV?
That's the biggest part of the story here is I can't believe we're in 2011 we were still premiering stuff
Last
on
one that ever
MTV.
premiered on MTV.
That
Last
shit's
one.
crazy.
They closed the doors after that.
What else did they do? I don't think 21
After
Pilots
that, they
ever premiered
premiered
shit.
Robin Big and never showed another music video again in their lives.
You wish it was Robin Big, but it was like whatever the other Rob Dyrdek stuff was.
Fucking like the show that's also on Comedy Central, but I do it too. Yeah. Ballad of Mona Lisa holds up for the record.
It kind of do for sure.
I did forget that the
banger.
music video is like the Hat Man isn't real. Oh yes, he is, in a way that's really scary.
It's okay. It's like some cool not cyberpunk steampunk visuals though. It feels like watching that video back, there is a lot less production value than I thought was there.
I know. It was like, I thought this was filmed for $1 million and realized it was filmed for $50K now.
Right. Like any of my favorite bands today could film this video.
100%. Sadly enough, none of them have the same inspiration as Panic at the Disco does. Memphis Mayfire debuted single No Ordinary Love a decade ago on February 6, 2014.
Here I stand, nothing more than a broken man, staring death in the face. All my mistakes have got a hold on me again.
Dude, this one's weird.
This one makes my stomach hurt.
Yeah, I was like, what?
It's like No Ordinary Love for me is still like
That's
a
modern
freshly
Memphis
new
Mayfire?
song. Yeah.
What do you mean modern Memphis is old Memphis? It doesn't make any sense.
Right. It also puts really into perspective that it's been 10 years since I truly adored Memphis.
Yep.
So yeah, I didn't love that anniversary.
They're due, right?
They're kind of
They
due.
really do. Panic's not due.
No, they're not.
We've closed shop on that one. Once again, guys, if you want more content, like to hear us talk about Sleep Token, selling out O2 Academy, this shipwrecked cruise boat getting shipwrecked, almost 2 on the nose, or what Capstan and Belmont are up to and their new releases, you can subscribe at patreon.com/SOTS podcast and get a little bit of SOTS Deluxe. Thanks everybody for listening.
Subscribe for what?
Only $3 a month,
Only
which is
$3.
like inflation has hit everything except for the SOTS podcast.
That's damn right, boy. Good fucking.